for Vasilev and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal!
It's fallen out to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again!
Who gets his goal in his Union debut? The record signing! Off and running in his first appearance for the club!
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and this is a little bit different for listeners, I think, Jose. We don't do many midweek podcast preview episodes, but we did talk about it last episode, Jose, towards the end, saying that this is something that we want to try to do more of if our schedules align, if it aligns with the guests that we plan on trying to bring on. And tonight it actually does work out, so super duper excited. But before we get into all that, Jose, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, thank you. Rare for us to do a midweek anything unless it's pre-recorded. I think was it the Kai Wagner interview that was midweek? Well, I was obviously in California. You were in.
Was I here?
No, you were home. Yeah. I remember the madness of being in California, you being in Maryland, and having to deal with Kai out in Birmingham. Like, brother, we just got to figure out this scheduling. But this one's a lot easier in terms, and I give you kudos for scheduling it and just taking it off my plate and really just bringing it home. I'm excited. Have heard a lot about this guest and excited to hear from said guest. So let's not delay it anymore.
For sure. Well, this weekend features two of the most struggling teams in MLS as the Philadelphia Union travel north to face CF Montréal on their long-awaited home opener after beginning the season with 6 straight road matches. Montreal currently sit in 13th place in the Eastern Conference with a 1-5-0 record, while the Union still searching for the first win after a difficult start of their season. But joining us now, she is a recent inductee into the Clayton State Athletics Hall of Fame, former radio commentator for Charlotte FC and current commentator for the NWSL and MLS on Apple TV, Jess Charman. Jess, thank you so much for joining once again.
Thank you.
I looked it up. It has been exactly 1,470 days since you were last on this podcast. Insane. Over 4 years.
What a 4 years it's been for everyone, by the way. Ups and downs, incredible. I mean, the Philadelphia Union feels like it's gone through 27 lives since we last chatted. Charlotte FC probably as well. And then me on a personal level. Yeah. The Hall of Fame thing, like, makes me feel old. Like, I mean, I'm 31. I feel I'm a very young inductee to a Hall of Fame. But when I got that email, I was like, aren't Hall of Famers usually a lot older than this? But I'll take it. Clayton State Hall of Fame, and I get a really cool jacket. And I want to ask you guys, because I'm not American, obviously, spoiler alert, and it's a really American thing, the Hall of Fame. Is that like a jacket that I should wear around, or do you frame that? Like, what do you do with a Hall of Fame jacket? Is that something that you show up and you look really arrogant wearing? Is that bad vibes? I just don't really know. First world problems.
That's going to the back of my closet if I were you. You know, it's cool. And you know, I can appreciate you saying, you know, like, are you sure about this? Right. When you got that note, because it is a little bizarre. I had a high school classmate, and I won't go into the whole story, but this person got inducted into our high school Hall of Fame only to have to scrub it off because she did something very, very, very bad.
Oh my gosh.
Terms of like genuinely illegal. So the bar's not very high at my high school, but I'm sure it's very, very high.
That's got to have been pretty bad to get rubbed off. That's not a little petty fraud. That's something pretty bad.
That's pretty bad. But it is what it is.
What does the family think over in England? I mean, you mentioned it. The Hall of Fame is definitely American-like. So what do they think?
Yeah, I think trying to explain it to like my brother was really interesting. I put it in like a family group chat, and they all say, "Well done, Jess, well done." And I just don't think they quite understand what it means. And the funny thing is, I'm not even going to be at the induction. I have New England versus Charlotte that day. It's at 1 p.m. on a Saturday. I was like, if you work in athletics, who can be there at 1 p.m. on a Saturday? So I'm going to attend it via Zoom. I've got to write a little speech. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, it's cool. I'm really proud of my roots. I think one of the big things I emphasize to anyone that wants to get in this business is that, and this isn't a dig at people that go to Syracuse and stuff like that, because I know that's legendary, but you don't have to go to Syracuse to be on Apple TV. I went to Clayton State. It's a Division II school, and actually the best thing it did to me, a lot of people love to hit me with the backhanded compliment. You're really young to be like this far in your career. And I think they mean it nicely, but it's also like a bit of a stab in the guts. It's because I went to a school where I got to be hands-on. At 19 as a sophomore, I was playing a game and then commentating a game. Like, now at any big D1 school, they pay professionals to go do that. They don't let a sophomore put a headset on and talk about the men's team. So no offense if you went to Syracuse, great for you, everybody. But like, I'm very proud of my roots and coming from Clayton State.
Now, I'm so glad you mentioned it.
Calling soccer games. Looking at you, Devin.
I'm so glad you mentioned it, Jess, because I was looking at pictures and reading about your work, and I remember seeing a picture. I'm thinking, she looks like she just finished a soccer game and she straight up just put on the headset. That's not a dig. That's not an insult. No, it looks like she just literally walked off and walked in.
Not even like walked off. I would walk off the pitch, run down to the locker room and like change a t-shirt. And then this explains Clayton State. I have to climb a ladder to, like, we don't have a media press box or anything. It's literally like a shed up in the sky. You have to climb a literal ladder up to the booth. And something that I'm so proud of, I still go back at least one game a season and come back and like commentate one of those games. And as I'm climbing up the ladder, I'm like, man, life has changed a lot. The press boxes in the US are incredible. I mean, we are so lucky, bar a couple, but the press boxes are elite. So yeah, I like that. Going back to Clayton State because it's a very humbling experience, and it reminds me of just how far I've come from the sweaty commentary and yeah, making sure I try to. I was going to call it a wet wipe shower, if you get what I mean. That has a very colloquial name that I wasn't going to use on air. Just a wet wipe shower. There we go.
That works out. I think this is actually a pretty good transition into. I know a bunch of questions I feel like Jose had for how you got your start, and you talked about it a little bit, playing goalkeeper at Collegiate State and doing commentary duties also while you were there. And I mentioned it in the intro, Jess, and for people who may be new to listening to the podcast, people that weren't around 4 years ago, I mentioned you started out with Charlotte FC, calling games on the radio with Willie P. And I mentioned to you off air, and I'll say it on air for everybody, but I don't think people listening to the show that aren't a fan of Charlotte realize how fortunate or how lucky Charlotte fans were with Eric and Lloyd calling games on TV, and then you and Willie P. And Philadelphia Union fans know that well too, with Sebastian Letou and Dave Leno on the radio, and then you had Danny Higginbottom and JP Della Camera. I mean, legendary duo right
what
there.
And oh my God, JP
Tommy Smith,
Tommy Smith
JP
too before.
Is a legend. Oh man,
so many good duos, and you guys in Charlotte had one of the best. And so I guess we can go ahead and talk about the differences between the radio and TV, because there are definitely differences, and you definitely have to, I feel like, maybe paint a broader picture for people listening on the radio as opposed to having the screen right in front of them.
Yeah, firstly, full disclosure, I was a radio analyst. So I think that's what makes me very unique as a play-by-play. I began my professional career as a color because I obviously have a fairly decent playing background. I played for Reading and Watford before I moved to the US to play in college. And yeah, so that's the first number one big difference. Now I'm a play-by-play. It's the best decision I made was switching from analyst to play-by-play, because I'm well aware that as much as playing, in the Women's Super League is cool, anytime a US women's national team player retires, they're going to take my job. And that's fair. They have more of a credibility than I am, and the competition was always going to be huge. And number two, I've always enjoyed play-by-play. I wasn't sure if I would ever get my break. And then I took a big gamble on myself in the transition year and betted on myself on doing play-by-play. But I would say, number one, the biggest difference is it's way harder. Like, don't get me wrong, doing an Apple TV game is difficult, and a play-by-play at any level is difficult. But TV, you can rely on the pictures. TV, you have room to breathe. TV, you know that you are almost background noise for some people, to be quite frank, versus being every sense of somebody during a radio broadcast. So I would say that I'm so glad I did radio first, because those people that do TV and then get called in to do like a play-by-play game on the radio, that is very, very difficult. I did the NWSL Championship for SiriusXM last year, and going back to radio and having to reset the time. These people, a lot of your audience are driving. They don't know what minute the game is. They can't look at the score stamp. They can't rely on the substitutions, the graphics, all these things that we take for granted in TV where we're using our eyes. You don't get in radio. So yeah, definitely a lot harder. But on the flip side, being local talent was just amazing because you're seeing the same team every single day. You know every single fact. And the unique thing about working for Charlotte was obviously I was the first ever radio analyst. So I saw every single game in Charlotte's existence while I was working for them. So to be able to literally pull the history and to pull the knowledge that you had from your bank of information was amazing. But yeah, I would say TV's a lot easier. It's obviously higher pressure now being on this stage. There's a lot more. I mean, Charlotte's radio did pretty well listenership wise, but I mean, when you compare it to Apple TV numbers and your highlights are there forever, it's a lot more unforgiving being on this side of it, a lot more unforgiving. And yeah, but I love it. And I'm really glad I made that change. It was a gamble, taking a bet on myself and moving to play-by-play. But I liked your reaction, Jose, because I think that most people that would listen to me wouldn't know that I only started doing play-by-play like full-time September 2024. So it's been a meteoric rise here. So I'm very grateful for that.
I chuckle because I work in academia and I know what it's like to hear a college or any one institution kind of take a dig, right? Every college wants to be known for something and be famous for something. But the reality is, even at the college that I represent for work full time, it's kind of, you gotta just, sure, you go and explore and build this critical thinking, but the reality is you can go and set off to do whatever you want. And I think that's the beauty of sort of the education. So I appreciated that comment quite a bit. I wanted to poke and prod a little bit to something you mentioned. And I see it both ways, as a positive, as a negative. But you mentioned or used the phrase local talent, which I think has been a bit of a criticism in terms of the MLS watchers, not just local for sure, but also globally. I think people kind of want to get accustomed to the same people, same voices, etc., which I can appreciate myself. I appreciate seeing new faces left and right, hearing, and I'm trying to, how does this person differentiate from this other one? That's just my opinion. I'd love to hear from you, Jess, where you see the positives and maybe the I don't want to say negatives, but maybe see the ways that it becomes more challenging in terms of being not just focusing on one single team.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And it's really interesting because I think you're right. There are highs and lows of it from both a professional standpoint and a viewership. For me, coming from Europe, I feel like it models a little bit more the English model to an extent where on the TV, at least, you might have different voices, but local radio stays as a complete hub. And I grew up listening to Reading FC's local radio, so I was a big fan of the local radio. And if there's one thing I wish was possible for Apple, and I know we've heard it in the weeds here and there when I was working for Charlotte, is I love the home radio option. And I wish they could do the away radio option. And I do think there's, from at least, and this is completely, I don't know if I'm talking out my backside here, at least when I was at Charlotte, they would tell me because the radios didn't travel, they can't put it into the van to do it, if that makes sense. It was something to do with the fact that very few radio teams travel anymore, just because of budget, and a lot of radio teams call it remotely. But I do love that Apple clearly values that locality by giving that option for home games. But let's be honest, the majority of people that would listen to that feed are probably at the stadium. So I wish there was a way to get the away feed, because then you can pick, you can choose. Do you want a more quote unquote neutral side of the call, which I do think is a benefit? As you said, we can be more neutral for somebody that's maybe not rooting for one of those teams, or for both perspectives, because my goal is to not piss off Montreal fans this weekend, and my goal is to not piss off Philadelphia Union fans this weekend. You want to try and be in the middle as a neutral talent. The positives, I love that I get to travel around and see a lot of the teams. I think it helps me have a very MLS wide view. When I was local talent, I do think my whole world point was probably very Charlotte centric, which some fans want that. Some fans want blue tinted glasses. I'm sure that's the same with Philadelphia. There are fans that just want everything to be from a Philadelphia bias. But is that really then being realistic about the game? And that's why I appreciate you guys on this podcast when I listen, because you are obviously Philadelphia Union fans, but you are real about it. So I do think there's the element of realness that is allowed when we don't necessarily have a horse in the race. The other part, as I say, is I can now, this weekend, I'm going to give a Philadelphia Union fan a better view of CF Montreal because I've already seen them 2 times this season. So that is helpful versus as a local talent, you only see that team once or twice a year to have that element of knowledge. The downsides, as you say, is I can never, and I would be stupid to ever claim it, no matter how hard I work and I bust my ass every single week with my preparation, I will never be able to have the same knowledge base as you guys. I just can't. There's no way I can have consumed the last 10 years of Philadelphia Union football. It's just not possible. You know, I wasn't even in the States but 12 years ago. So we won't ever be able to have that. But I think as long as we're respectful and we do our job and we truly prep, and I do think that most of my colleagues do a fantastic job. All of my colleagues at Apple do a fantastic job of not taking it for granted. We have to prep harder. I have to listen genuinely, and not just saying this. I listen to local podcasts all of the time, local radio. When I get into the market, I will put on sports radio because I know how important it is to hear those local takes so that I'm not deluded. If I know that Philadelphia Union fans right now are not very happy with a certain forward player, I know that is part of my narrative for the game. So you can make up for it in those ways. And then the other part is just making sure you bust your ass on the prep, you know, pronunciations, all of that stuff, because otherwise we look stupid. So, yeah.
I think that's the perfect segue to my next question. And I'm sorry to make this a career one-on-one slash.
Oh, it's fine. I'm sorry to the audience who might not give a damn, but at least it'll make. Yeah.
No, if anything, it's satisfying me. So I think Todd's okay with that too. You mentioned sort of not necessarily not wanting to. Obviously, you do your prep, but not wanting to piss off fans. And this is an interesting question because I appreciate, as Todd and I often get criticism. We appreciate it when it's fair and constructive. Hopefully you receive some of that, but I also find it hilarious when the criticism comes to like, why can't this person pronounce X name? It's like, well, they've probably been prepping for 2-3 days, 4 days, whatever it is. It's difficult to get all the pronunciations
right. Here's the thing about pronunciations as well, though, because I'm very big on this. I listen to the audio over and over and over again. Like I start doing pronunciations is what I begin Monday. Like I don't even do my notes on players without listening to them say their own name, because I don't want to type it the way that it's written on paper ever, because then that gets you into the bad habit. I want to type it phonetically from the get-go.
Sure.
At the same time, we as human beings, whether it be accents, background, everything, will hear things differently. I understand that it's hearing it, but we will literally hear it and say it differently. So sometimes it's because of an accent. So for instance, CF Montreal, I hear Tony Husband call him Matty Longstaff, right? Because he has a very British accent. Now, if you listen to Matty's audio, it is technically Matty Longstaff, right? It's staff, but we have to make a decision as broadcasters, and it's really difficult at times how far we can go to pronounce it authentically without it bordering like getting interpreted the wrong way, right? So I speak some pretty good Spanish, so I feel like when I'm pronouncing the Latino players, I try and do it authentically. But at what point do people try a bit too hard and then it comes across as mocking? I think with the new wave of South African players coming into the league, right? Mboazi for Chicago, there are some people that maybe go really far with that. And how far do you go without it then becoming almost disrespectful, if that makes sense? So we have to overthink all of these things, and it's crazy. I try and hear what I hear, and I only do audio because if there's one thing that kicks me in the arse, it is phonetic typing pronunciations. Because if the comms director is American, they are going to write it a different way. And I use this is a random example from the NWSL. There is a player called Natasha Flint. She goes by Tash Flint. but it's written phonetically because of an American accent as Tosh, Tosh. But if I say Tosh, it's not Tosh, but it's because with an American accent, Tosh maybe makes like the Tosh sound. Do you get what I'm saying? So
I get it.
these are really fine weeds, but it's things people don't think of. So when people are really hard on pronunciation, I'm okay if I'm getting it wrong, and I will always work to do better. And I'm okay if someone tweets me and says, hey, actually, you're doing this wrong, or you got this stat wrong. What sucks, and I'm not trying to play like the women card, but what sucks at times is being a minority. There will be people that don't give me a chance from the get-go.
That was my next question.
Hard. Yeah, it's fine. I know I'm a female, play-by-play talking about men's games. Like, it's cool. I'm gonna get people that just don't want to hear a woman's voice. Cool. That says more about them than me, that they're not giving me a chance. But in the same vein, I think I have something really unique to offer as a play-by-play in that I've played at a really high level. There are not many play-by-plays in any country, in England, in America, that have played the game at a high level or coached the game at a high level. And I think that separates me because I have a different knowledge base of the game. And that's not to disrespect any of the play-by-plays that have gone down a different route, but a lot of play-by-plays in America in particular, either all sports guys, where they can do a bunch of other sports because they're professional broadcasters, or they're very trained in broadcasting. I'm unique. Give me a chance. If you don't like me, it's fine. But when people like, I'm not dumb. I see comments when people are just like, oh, why is there a woman talking about men? Like, what, like, honestly, whatever, like, it's fine. And I'd like to hear you do a better job in a nice way, because a lot of those people couldn't do it. Everyone thinks they can be a commentator until you're like, hey, okay, then go commentate it. And I do think another thing, sorry, I'm rambling, but I am very fortunate as well that I don't have a manly voice, but I don't have like that quintessential high-pitched women's voice.
Give me your best Valley. Give me your best Valley girl.
Nope, not doing it. Nope. I have made there is a commercial of me and Charlotte where I talked about ordering ranch in an American accent, and that literally was a commercial for nearly 2 years. For 2 years, it was a commercial for the morning show. So I have learned my lesson. But in all seriousness, I do think it helps. It helps that I have a slightly more neutral tone, because it's not as maybe alarming, which is insane that it would be alarming. And then secondary, like, I love when I work with female partners. I've got no issue with it. I worked a lot with Casey White, who is incredible in her own right. US Women's National Team, UEFA, like, a licensed coach. She literally is a player that represented the country and coached the youth national team. Like, she has all the credibility and can break down a game. But when the two of us were paired together, I'll be honest, like, more people didn't like it because more people have an issue with two women. Now that I'm paired with Ian, I think it balances things out a little bit. So yeah. It is what it is. I'm a woman in sports. It's going to happen. It's the same as, minorities in sport, but I'm never going to use it as an excuse. Like, I just want to be good for who I am. And, yeah.
No, I appreciate that, because Todd and I often talk, and I give Todd so much credit. Before I started getting more involved with him, and I was doing some other stuff with a great friend of ours, Mike Barrera, etc. I always gave Todd so much credit because he always, or at the time, sure, he would have guests, but I would say 80% of the time, Todd, you were just doing an hour solo talking into a microphone. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, nobody can criticize you, because I can guarantee you that's a top 5% skill when it comes to just being able to keep a conversation, even if it's by yourself. So everybody thinks they can do the job better than the person who's across the screen. So I can appreciate that. Jess, one last question before maybe we start moving over to talking about Union Montreal. Well, I guess two. Something I've absolutely loved about the Apple deal, and I know that it started a little rocky, having the paywall within the paywall, probably not the best idea. I totally get the financials. I'm not a bean counter, but I can sort of appreciate their work and trying to make it viable. I have loved the ability to be able to put, in fact, with all due respect, 90% of the time, I listen to the games in Spanish. If anything, last week when the show got a shout out on the American feed, or the English feed, I should say, I did not know about it. And I just kept on getting messages from the group chat saying, hey, what an incredible thing. I was like, what happened? I'm listening in Spanish. I'm
gonna have to talk to Jesus this weekend to make sure you get a shout out in español también. Like, but by the way, the Spanish guys are the nicest human beings in the world. One of my biggest
super nice
blessings of doing this job again has been crossing paths with all of these Spanish guys. Like, they are so hardworking, so incredibly humble. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that getting to rub shoulders with these guys, and then most of them are legends in their home countries too. Like, I think that's what people don't realize. Like, a lot of these people are so established on their local like countries broadcast. It's incredible. So yeah, I love that part about my job, getting to mingle with those guys. And I practice my Spanish with them too, which is good.
Okay. So let me ask you this, which is my question. If you were to take one piece, one tidbit, can be a little, I don't know, whatever you want to say, from the way that the Spanish speakers commentate, what would you take from that way? Because it's certainly not a science; it's definitely an art, despite the language. What is one thing you would take from a Spanish commentator into the American way that folks commentate, or I should say, the English speakers?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because
Has a lot of flair.
it wouldn't work in English, right? It just wouldn't. That's the fact. And what's funny is some people have even said that they feel like I have a Latin influence on my goal calls, where I'm a little bit like longer on certain things, and I take it as a big compliment. I think the artistry of the language, right? I look at Moises Linares and his lo canto, lo canto, lo canto, right? There's like an artistry of that.
Cántalo conmigo!
Uh-huh.
He nails it.
I just I wish there was like an artistry, and I try and be a little fruity in my language here and there, but I don't think we can get away with it in the same way. Like, I listen to some of these Spanish broadcasts, and just the descriptiveness, and sometimes it's not even about the goal. I don't know how to explain it. You would like, I think you'll understand what I'm saying here, and it's not rude, or it's not necessarily they're describing the goal, they're describing the feeling behind the goal, right? Like, maybe when I do a goal call, I'm saying, oh, a glorious bend into the top corner. Like, I'm describing what happened. They're not. They're describing like the full emotion, like las estrellas, like they're talking about the stars in the sky, and like it's all so incredible, and it's all metaphoric in a way. And I just think it's like they capture the emotion of the feeling a little differently than we can do in English. But I also think it's rightfully different. One thing I am so glad we don't have to do is talk nonstop. Like, letting the game breathe in English is a blessing on an Apple broadcast with 30 plus reads.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, and now obviously, you know, some of those guys doing it solo, I can only imagine having your producer in your ear trying to keep talking, because as we know in English, like, I work with a talent coach, full disclosure, through Apple. And one of the biggest things is letting the game breathe. Like, they're emphasizing, hey, like, you don't have to talk through this. Like, they're touching the ball, like, let it breathe. You can't do that in Spanish. Or someone will be like, hey, are you still here? Are you still here? Like, they'd be worried about the broadcasters. So yeah, I'm so glad they have the Spanish speaking people as a broadcast option. And I think my favorite thing that media do when they blur like my goal call with a Spanish goal call, I freaking love those video graphics, which, by the way, US video teams are the most incredible. Like, there's nothing like that in England. You don't see, I mean, I'm a Reading fan, so I mean, Division 3, of course you don't see it with the budget, but even like the top level teams, you don't see the video teams put together, the quality of the videos that they do in Major League Soccer. I mean, it is incredible. And when they put my voice in that, it's like a really nice feeling, because you're like, oh, I said something they liked. And then I love when they blur it in with like the Spanish. It's super cool because you're able to see the differences.
It hasn't been a very fruitful year, and Todd knows I enjoy doing this. It was difficult with the radio because of that radio feed, for whatever reason. I'm guessing it's something to do with rights. It disappears after the game's done.
Yeah. Oh, that was I couldn't stand it, because everyone would always be like, when I did the radio, they would be like, oh, Jess, why didn't you, I want to go back and listen to it. And you can't. I think it's to do with zonal, like, geographic, because you can only, you know what I mean?
I get that. I used to, and again, once the Union starts scoring more, I used to get the different calls. Like, here's the English call, here's the Spanish call, for every single goal, so people could see the differences. And sure, like, you could be a Spanish aficionado and enjoy those calls, but like, oh, this English one's actually better. Or like what happened 85% of the time, people who did not speak any English would be like, maybe I should watch the games in Spanish. It's like, probably not a bad idea. My final question: how do you pronounce Will's last name?
Will Pulisic.
Okay.
Oh my God, I worked with him for 3 years. I still struggle. That's why he was the play-by-play. Will Pulisic. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it's Pulisic.
What was
Gosh.
your reaction the very
Oh,
first time he let a goal
oh,
rip in your ear?
guys,
Because the guy's full
Yeah,
auto-tune.
Jose, what are you doing?
Did you? I will never forget. It was the goal was disallowed. It was in the opener against DC United. The first ever goal was disallowed, and I just remember looking at him and like, is this a thing? Like just like this, just because I mean we had done one. So this is full disclosure. I know I'm going on. I wasn't meant to be the radio voice. Like someone else had the gig. I found out in the January before the season started in February. So all we got was like one. We met one time. Yeah, like I'm a big believer in like God's plan working out, and I truly believe like that was like the most incredible thing, like to take that risk and to find out 1 month in advance and then to be dry. I took the job without knowing geographically where Charlotte was. I mean, like I live in Atlanta. I did not know I was committing to 8-hour round trip. Don't regret it one bit, but like it was that crazy. I'd never done a game with him. So I just remember looking and be like, oh wow. And then it would keep going, and like it made me a better analyst because you have to be able to like not zone it out in a disrespectful way, but you can't let it distract you, right? But he truly loves that team. Like I can never like he is the biggest Charlotte FC advocate in the world. He loves that team. He is truly what it means to be like a local voice. When it went viral, the goal that went viral, I don't know, do you remember this goal?
It genuinely sounded like Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. That was one of the strangest weeks of my life because I was getting sent it by people in England that don't even watch football. Like it made The Sun, it made English newspapers. And what was even crazier is without my freaking permission, they were putting pictures of me and Will in the newspaper together. Like Pulisic calls games alongside Englishwoman Jess Charman. I couldn't believe it had happened. Like I couldn't believe it had happened. But again, most people that saw that thing don't realize that wasn't like that wasn't a one-off. Like that is everything. He loves the team. He's a great human being. And yeah, I just but it isn't easy as an analyst next to it sometimes because you're trying to think, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna say? And then at the same time, balance, right? I can't go full in as again, female card. I'll say it, full disclosure. If I go in squealing, like that's not gonna work. So I lost count of the amount of people though that'd be like, oh Jess, did you hit him in the nuts? Like literally the amount of tweets I get, oh Jess, oh how come the woman sounds like the manly one in the oh my God. It was like he's a legend and just a good human being, and any team would be lucky to have someone that loved their club as much as Willie does. So yeah.
I can only imagine what my reaction would have been, and it would have been positive. And I think it's one of those things that there might be some revisionist history, right? Like, yeah, it was funny, but like that's some legendary stuff. Like that's like some folklore in the making, literally about a club that's it's very young, but like 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, it's like this is gonna be unforgettable.
Yeah, he's a historical figure in that club, and that's something I pride myself in too, because the first ever goal that counted, Adamama's goal, TV messed it up. They said it was Guzman Corujo. So our call was the one that went out there. So that was super cool too. Another one of those Godwings, right? That like, hey, because at the time it was like, it wasn't local TV. It wasn't Eric. It was like it was taken on by Fox or something, which back in the day, you remember when like a big network did it, you couldn't have local TV. Yeah. So it was whoever the big network was got it wrong. And then our goal call became the goal call. So forever grateful that I got to do that.
Todd, we can flip the page. I'm satiated with my job 101 question. Thank you.
Do we have to talk about Philadelphia Union? I mean, I thought I feel like you guys, oh my gosh, you poor things. Oh, and I have to talk to Bradley Carnell tomorrow. I mean, the hardest part of the job. You Todd, when you set up this game as two struggling teams, imagine me in 2 coaching calls with Don Adele and Bradley Carnell this week. I mean, what do you ask? I mean, what do you ask? Like it's like...
ask them if they went go-karting.
Hey, Bradley is so lovely, but man, I don't know what you ask in this. Like, you just keep rubbing it. Like, there's only so many times you can ask, "Hey, bud, how's everyone feeling?" Like, Oh gosh.
So many times. You're absolutely right, and definitely gets hard to hear in local media. And then you always get messages. You see people online. Oh, nobody asks the hard questions. Nobody asks this. And there's a time and the place for questions. Like
Yeah,
you go in there and try to do it. It's like it's not gonna fly.
and again, it goes to people not realizing. Again, we're so blessed to have the access we have and all of this stuff, and I don't think any of us take it for granted. But like, would you like? I want to see someone go in there and just be like, "Hey, Matt." To be fair, there was a lady that asked Neville, didn't they, this week, whether he felt like his job was under wrap. That was pretty ballsy of her. But yeah, it's hard to ask big questions. It's hard, and particularly when they're likable people.
For sure. Hey, Jose, at the beginning of the show, you mentioned this guy, Matt Swift.
Hey, Matt.
Yes.
Oh,
You said,
what a
ask
legend.
Justin, Jose who their favorite Charlotte fan is, and why is it me?
Oh, Matt Swift, you're a legend. But I've got to go with the other Matt because he let me throw. We were doing a fundraiser there. Mint City Collective do amazing fundraisers every year. And I believe it was for the night. It was a cancer society, I believe. And I paid a good chunk of change to throw water balloons at one of the members, but then got criticized afterwards because I threw the water balloon too hard. So apparently it's like, people were like, is she trying to kill him? I was like, it's a water balloon. Can I really? I mean, I had an arm. Full disclosure. I used to play rounders in England. It's like kind of baseball. So yeah, I had an arm, but yeah, they're great. Good people in Charlotte. And I get to go back in May. So I'm really excited to go back there in May.
It's a homecoming.
And Willie P's not going to be there because he's going to be at his sister's wedding. Can you believe it? We're not getting reunited. I know, wild.
That is.
I'm surprised he let his sister schedule a wedding on a Saturday. Charlotte FC game day. No, sis. There's no wedding.
Pick a different day. You have 6 more days to pick.
We could discount and do it midweek.
It's cheaper. You'll save $100,000 for a Tuesday wedding. Oh god.
For sure, but yeah, let's go ahead and switch the page. Even though the commenters, I mean, I see the comments online. I mean, people are enjoying the conversation and whatnot, so they might not even want us to talk about this game because I swear every time that we talk about the Union, I mean, people somehow they still tune in and listen to Jose and I, even though the Union haven't got a single win yet. But we appreciate the listeners always commenting here with us Wednesday night at 8:40. But this is your second consecutive CF Montreal game, Jess. Last weekend, Montreal, they fell to New England 3-0 in a match where they still created chances, Montreal. And then they hit the post multiple times in that game. And despite their attacking output, they're going to score goals. They've proven that they can score goals. I mean, a couple of weeks ago against FC Cincinnati, they went up by 3 times and wound up losing that game 4-3. Gave up a late goal, game-winning goal to Denke off of a long throw-in. Don't know how they
stupid goal to concede. Oh my gosh!
But Montreal found a way. 17 goals conceded, second most in MLS, and they've also given up the highest shots on target percentage in MLS with 53.2%. And so, when you go back to that game against New England, what's your main takeaway from that game, Jess?
Yeah, it's interesting because I did the New England game and then I did their second game against Chicago. And their game against Chicago, they were absolutely terrible. I mean, Chicago got a red card in over half an hour of football left to play. They got a red card. And Montreal didn't create a shot while down to 10, while they had the player advantage. And in fact, Chicago scored 2 goals in that window. So my biggest takeaway was the growth between that game where they were absolutely horrific and the game against New England, where I felt like 3-0 kind of flattered New England. And that's not to take away from some decent phases of play for New England, but it was only 1-0 at halftime. CF Montreal, as you mentioned, hit the woodwork 2 times. They created opportunities. They got into the attacking third. I think they'll be disappointed about some of the goals that they gave up. Defensively, it's shocking, really, defensively watching it. And as a former goalkeeper, I just feel so bad for Thomas Gillier in goal for them because I'm surprised I haven't seen it as a meme yet. His reaction after the first goal that was scored was incredible. I mean, he was like a toddler, jumping up and down like in fury, but I could feel it. I could relate to him. He has made so many good saves, Gillier. And look, as a keeper, you're taught, get out of the danger zone. Sometimes you can't. At the pace that these strikers are hitting at you. Sometimes you just got to get some sort of body part on it, but you put up a juicy rebound. His defense does not react to any loose ball. And I would think by now you would see, hey, our keeper's going to make the first save. Let's take a gamble. Let's follow up. Let's clear it away. So I think defensively, CF Montreal will have a lot of issues with, number one, like reacting time in and around the box, and then just defending in and around the box. They try and mark man to man, but it doesn't work very often. And yeah, right now, I mean, other than Orlando, we could talk about all day what's going wrong there defensively. I did the game in NYC for Orlando, and that was Oscar's last game. And maybe I'm a little cursed there. But they do create chances. They've got a couple of good players. I think Ivan Jaime, finally, their designated player, played a full 90 minutes in that game. He's got tricky feet, but not on the same page as a lot of the other players. You can see him getting frustrated, but he also hits the woodwork. Owusu is... can't put my finger on Owusu because he is so important in terms of like hold up play for them, but then doesn't link up with anyone else. Like he does the first thing, he's got his back to goal, he holds the ball up, but then he can't connect. So it's just a team that has looked really bad in moments. But then on the flip side, you got to give them some grace, right? Playing 6 games on the road is a long freaking slog, and to finally be home. So we'll see which CF Montreal has turned up. They've got better in terms of shot creation lately. I think they took 19 shots. If I'm thinking back to the stats that came up after the game, the previous 2 games, they'd taken over 20 shots in each game. So they're growing in terms of chances created. So I would expect to see them maybe a bit more promising in attack. But on the flip side for Philadelphia, despite the fact they've only scored 4 goals this season, this feels like a side that you should score on. That's some wood being knocked for you guys, right?
We'll see. You had mentioned Montreal's goalkeeper, Gillier. The one thing that stands out to me is he'll make the save, but his pairing's not great. It's usually to the center of the goal, and his defense isn't there to go ahead and clear it away. We saw it the opening goal against New England. Makes the save, and then just defense isn't tracking back, and then it's an easy
juicy rebounds. A lot of juicy rebounds. I give him credit on the first goal because I think he makes like the kick save, and it's like an awkward position, but anytime you kick save, a kick save is way harder to redirect with your feet because you're just spreading. You don't have the same angle as being able to parry it away. I'm getting into the weeds of goalkeeping, but you're right, he parries it out in the danger zone versus parry it out for a corner, like tip it around the post, make better decisions. He also, I mean, the kid's 21 years of age. I mean, I know we've got other young goalkeepers in this league like Brady who are fantastic, but he's still 21. And I think sometimes he makes some immature mistakes, whether it was, I mean, he came out for one in this game and like got caught in no man's land, kind of sliced his clearance, smashed it into his defender. The other part is I just feel like this team has no trust in each other. And maybe, Todd, it comes from what you said with the rebounds and the defense not following in. It feels like the communication's not there, and they're just, not on the same page cohesively defensively, which is part of the reason they've given up. I mean, 17 goals against at this point feels pretty high.
It is high, and that is like part of my question I want to ask you next. I mean, just watching the goalkeeper just not parry it away puts it into danger. And then Montreal, they've conceded the 4th most set pieces in the league, second most, 4 goals conceded from set pieces. And so if you're Bradley Cornell and his coaching staff, is that something you would say to the players, just targeting that specifically? Hey, look, we got to be crucial on set pieces, and let's try multiple shots, put our shots on target, which I know the Union have struggled with this season, but no, you don't have a confident goalkeeper in Gillier who spills a lot of shots. Is that something maybe the Union should emphasize and practice this week?
I'd be emphasizing dumping the ball underneath him early, honestly. Like when you're a goalkeeper, and I'm talking from experience there, if you're not full of confidence, if you've had a rough few games, the last thing you want is like on corner kicks, crowded 6-yard box, dumping it underneath the crossbar constantly and making them make a decision. It's funny, you bringing that up reminded me of what Chicago was doing. Chicago was doing it every single corner kick, putting it towards that back post area, making them make a decision. Was he going to come get it? Was he going to parry it? Was he going to leave it for the defense? And you could see there was like that level of anxiety. So I would think about putting in those deliveries, crashing the box, using any aerial presence you can, and making the goalkeeper think early. In the same way with the ball at his boots, also tries to play as the quote-unquote modern goalkeeper that we see nearly every goalkeeper try and do these days, where they think their feet are probably better than they are because goalkeepers should focus on their hands first. I understand extra player, I understand modern goalie, but sometimes when these goalkeepers are trying to Cruyff turn the attackers, I'm like, come on, guys. Let's just stick to what we're good at. I would be pressing him, and I know Philadelphia Union historically has been a high pressing team. I know we haven't seen as much of it maybe this season, but if you've got a goalkeeper that's shaky and a back line that doesn't want the ball, press. Like, how many goals have we seen this season from other teams given up from goalkeepers being pressed on distribution, freaking out and leading to a tap in? And I feel like you've got to create chances from somewhere. So let, even with crosses, I would say like your fullbacks are doing better in moments this season. I feel like getting the ball forward. I'd like to see Westfield. I'd like to see Harriel lumping balls in that. We call it, like, it's very cliche, but like the aisle of uncertainty in goalkeeping, where you're not sure, are you going to come for it or is your defender going to come for it? I feel like that's a lovely area of the pitch for Philadelphia to exploit. And if Kai Wagner was here, he would be having a heyday on putting those balls in, wouldn't he? Sorry, that's a low blow.
He sure would. What's most interesting to me about this matchup and thinking about two strikers for Philadelphia that certainly need something to get going. And this game could not come at a better time, which is a dual-edged sword, right? Like, they lose this game, that really brings up some different questions. But even looking at the center back partnership and someone that a lot of these players know with Brandon Craig, obviously a lot of Union connections still within the team from playing at the youth level and growing up with a lot of those guys there. But Efrain Morales, who is a Bolivian international. And it's really interesting because having gotten to watch him a lot out of sheer interest, being Bolivian myself and watching him go through heartbreak alongside me at 1 o'clock in the morning.
I'm sorry.
It's not this partnership is going to be really interesting to see how they deal with a Bruno Damiani, who is obviously just an incredibly physical player, but also an Ezekiel Alado, who's yet to kind of prove a point onto what is his specialty, right? Because I feel like as it stands right now, he's a guy that's just been, I don't know, 10, 15 yards away from the center circle, and that's about it. So I'm really intrigued to see how Montreal sort of adapts to what should be two very physical players.
Do you think the two of them will start, out of interest?
I just don't know how you don't start your two most expensive players.
Yeah, I get it. It's hard, isn't it, when you sign a record-breaking deal, but at the same time, I don't know. Ross Smith's take on Alado, if you haven't seen it on Twitter, is quite something. So I think that's very telling for a commentator to come out that openly and say that about him. But I really liked Morales when I was working with Atlanta United too. I commentated his first goal actually off of a set piece, a header, and I think he's just a really, really good kid. But he still looks very raw to me. And there is times where, and I know he's 24, I think, right now, but he almost doesn't feel like he's grown into his body yet. He's just a bit awkward in some moments, very gangly. And I feel like he'll struggle with that physicality. Like you mentioned, Craig, I think it was only his first start last game. He's not been starting consistently. So that's a new partnership as well. If you can run in behind and challenge, if you can use your body a little bit. But the issue is, how much has Philadelphia Union been running in behind? And obviously I've been watching the games, watching the highlights. I watched a lot of the Charlotte game. There were some moments early, but just not enough. And you're playing against a Charlotte team, with all due respect, that doesn't have the most pacey defender in certain players, no names mentioned, legend of the US. But I mean, you would think you would make that mismatch and attack through space. So I think you're right. It feels like the right game for Philadelphia Union in terms of, you know, how we always talk about the cliche, like the floodgates will open. It feels like it could be a really good game for the confidence of the forwards. And if it's not, then there's far bigger issues than talking about like that, you know?
Yeah, can't be touting out Todd as we joke a little bit. Can't be rolling out, wheeling out the we beat defense force, you know, like whatever it was, 13-0. Like
that's in every game, not even in Montreal's game notes. I mean, it was literally like their one win or their two wins of the season have come up against defense force, and it's like, oh guys,
yeah,
we
need
but it's time. It's time. It feels like it's time. And I think when I look back at that Charlotte game, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe they were in the middle of the replay when the next attack happened and Zaha hit. Like, they almost missed the goal because it was that close together. And I really feel like you're so vulnerable after scoring a goal. And I think there was an element from Philadelphia where It's only the 4th goal of the season. I understand you're so excited, you're celebrating all of this, but you got to be more switched on than that. You got to be more disciplined than that. And I always remember I had a college coach that hated goal celebrations. He like hated it because he's like, when you celebrate the goal, and I'm not saying they shouldn't have celebrated, like don't quote me on that, but like when you celebrate a goal too hard, you're then like emotionally disconnected and you leave yourself so vulnerable. You've got the equalizer at Bank of America Stadium, which is a very difficult freaking place to play. Shut up shop for a little bit. Just control the game. I'm not saying park the bus at 1-1, but give yourself 5-6 minutes of control before you start looking for that winner. And I just thought it was heartbreaking. Really. It was hard to watch almost, because as someone that, saw Philadelphia Union against Atlanta, I felt like there was a level of growth, but it's not enough to pick up points right now.
No, it's not. And you talked about the different partnerships for Montreal in the back. I mean, the Union have had so many different partnerships in the back line, 8 different defensive pairings across all competitions, which is insane. I think for a back line. I mean, you would know this, and I'll ask you in a bit, but from a goalkeeper's perspective, I feel like you would want consistency in the back. And Bradley Cornell, he's went with a different lineup in every single game this season in MLS and CONCACAF Champions Cup. 10 is insane. But, I mean, last season he used 29 different lineups in MLS, so it's not anything unheard of from Bradley Cornell. But the one thing that just a little bit of a head scratcher for me is the back line, and I get it. You have injuries, you have suspensions, you have all this stuff that plays into a factor into it. But the Union go out there and they sign in Dinga, who's supposed to be a replacement for Wagner. And no offense to him, like that's not going to happen. Kai Wagner was a one of a kind. So
which, to be fair, I want to say that Cornell, at least in our calls, was like, we have to get over the narrative of like who's replacing Kai Wagner. He straight up said, no one's replacing Kai Wagner. He's irreplaceable. But someone needs to service the job. It can't just be like, you can't just leave that area of the pitch so unserviced,
Right.
I agree. But yeah, like I said, I mean, 8 different defensive pairings this season across all competitions. You're a former goalkeeper. How vital is having a consistent back line, Jess?
Oh, so important, because every player has tendencies that are different. It's the same as a goalkeeper. That's why you try and play with the same goalkeeper unless you're going to make a permanent change for the entirety of the season, because we all have different strengths and weaknesses. I use it as a goalkeeping. I was very aggressive in and around my 6-yard box, very high line. My defense got used to that. If you put in a different goalkeeper that's maybe further back, it's completely different. And I think you would say the same for defenders. You're going to have defenders that are comfortable receiving the ball in a certain way with distribution. You're going to have defenders that want to be communicated with in a certain way. You're going to have defenders that maybe have weaknesses on one side of their shoulders, or aerial presences, or with fullbacks, the ones that are far more comfortable defending 1-versus-1 duels, the ones that are more comfortable driving forwards, the ones that are stereotypical defensive minded fullbacks versus attacking minded fullbacks. It's a hodgepodge, and I think that you can't truly build chemistry if it's an ever rotating door of players. And that's why you don't sub center backs in the middle of the game unless they're injured, because you don't change it. And I feel like that's the same with wanting to not switch them week to week. If it wasn't an important place to sub, you would do it in the game when players were tired, but you want to keep them in the game and fit. So yeah, I agree. I think one of the reasons why Philadelphia has had some goals that they've conceded that they'd probably be frustrated with in terms of maybe marking, in terms of deliveries into the box. I look at the Chicago goal that was served in. I mean, Gutman put in a great ball, but no one was marking him. You had 3 players in the box. If you have consistent back line that maybe knows each other, do they know who's picking him up without even needing to communicate? So questions for Philadelphia Union.
There are. And I did tell you 45 minutes and we're past that. I blame Jose.
It's okay, guys. It's okay. I've had my coffee. We're fine. It's actually, like I say, doing stuff like this is so helpful for us too, because it starts to create narratives in my mind of how I'm going to frame stuff and conversations. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I'll leave you with one more question, Jess. I mean, Union fans know all about the negatives for the Union this season. Jose and I have certainly talked about it, I feel like, every single week since they've not got a win yet. But when you look at this Union team, do you see any positives through the first 6 games in MLS despite them being 0-6?
the games are close, right? Like, I do think it's probably worse as a fan in some ways. I almost prefer, you know what I mean? Like, it would almost be more fun when you get like absolutely blasted away. It's almost like, okay, look, they were the better team. They were so much better than us. They dominated us. Every game, bar Atlanta, has been a 1-goal margin. So that's heartbreaking. Obviously, it's the cruelest way to play, but at least the games are close. I would say, I know we just jumped on about the defense, but the biggest issue has been goal scoring. And I've been on a team where the forwards haven't scored. And I do feel like it puts a higher pressure on the back line because the back line is constantly in the back of your mind. Whether or not you want to admit it, mentally, there is no way it doesn't affect these players. There's no way it doesn't affect the goalkeeper. The minute you concede a goal, you're like, well, shit, are we going to get back into this game because we can't trust our attackers? So I would say the games have been close. And I do think that progressively there has been more glimpses of maybe chances being created. The issue has been that there's just no confidence in the forward line. I look back at the Atlanta United game. I think it was Vasilev that missed a complete sitter, and he missed a sitter in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, I think, as well. Like, these forwards don't look like they believe in themselves when they shoot. So I would say the positive is the games are close. You're always within the games. You're just one informed striker away from picking up a win. But who's the informed striker going to be is the question.
I don't think Bradley Cornell knows either.
I don't think, I'm so intrigued. I mentioned this in the podcast, and I was just so glad to have had the opportunity and, covering, or writing, I should say, for MLS proper, about the Columbus game. And that's a team that on paper should also be a lot higher in the standings than it currently is, right? 2 draws, 1 win, and just whatever it is, 3 losses, I guess. And talking to their coach, like, asking him, I should say, what does a win at this moment, considering the players you have on the roster, how close you've been in a lot of these games, never mind the draws that you pulled out, how much does a victory do for you and your players between the shoulders? Not so much on the table, right? How important is that? And he had a really great answer. I really want to see, and I don't want to get into reading body language too much because it's not a science, it's an art, of course. But like,
no, but you can tell a lot.
Yeah, so I want to see the swagger of the players after they get this win. I want to see the Bradley Cornells of the world, right? Do they actually pay for the Zoom account after the match if they win, or do they let it run out? I don't know.
That I didn't understand what was happening when the guy's like, "Hey, is this timer real?" Like, and they're like, "Yes, we will get kicked out." I was like, Bradley was probably like, "Hallelujah!" Though he was just so glad that day. But I think you're right. The mental side of a win. Does it mean that the Union's going to flip their season around? Maybe not. But the mental side of building momentum, and then you play DC, like, I feel like there's a series of winnable games to an extent if you have confidence. But it takes that confidence because the longer this losing streak goes on, players aren't stupid. Players aren't so, like, you hear that it's the worst start by a Shield team ever. You hear that you're, 3 losses away from the worst start in MLS history ever. There's no way that doesn't play on the back of your minds. I don't care how much we emphasize that there are mental health professionals. I understand that the level of professionalism within teams, the care for, like, mental well-being is really great now. As human beings, we're still going to be affected by that. And the longer that this goes on, the longer that you're not scoring, the longer that your defense is feeling like they're let down, that they concede a goal and they've lost, like, how much more can we do defensively? It starts to create tension. There's no way it doesn't. The locker room, no matter how much you say it, there's no way. I have never been in a locker room that has been on a terrible streak that has been better than a locker room after a win. Like, it's impossible. So this on paper, guys, I'm telling you, this is a game, and I have a hard game to sell. I mean, I'm trying to think about how I'm going to open it up. 2 struggling sides with a chance to ignite tonight.
I get if you nail it, you'll get your sports Emmy. You'll check that off your box.
Sold this game. It's the wonder. No, I actually think it's going to be a good game, though. Genuine, not just saying it because I'm on the call. I think there is a lot of potential, and I hope it's an open game. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'd like to see you'll be brave and create some chances and run a little bit direct. But our boy Ezekiel's got to Got to run a little bit.
Gotta do something.
I want to give him grace. I know it's hard to come to a league and move, and you're still 20 years old, but like, come on. Yeah, you're making some good money. There's no way you're not making good money. Like,
Nothing to add. Nothing to add.
Hey, I think from what Jose and I had heard from behind the scenes that, yeah, I mean, this guy was hyped up to be the real deal, and he's not lived up to it so far this season in MLS or CONCACAF Champions Cup. I mean, he couldn't have had a worse debut for the club against DC United, getting that red card. I mean, what a way to introduce yourself to the fan base in MLS. I mean, Jesus. Not the greatest start to life for Ezekiel Alado, but maybe he gets a start. Maybe he comes off the bench this week and makes a difference. I mean, Bradley Cornell, this team would definitely love that. I know the fan base would love that as well. But yeah, hopefully we get goals, because when I do my goals breakdown videos, I feel like it's been so boring when we've had no goals and nobody watches those videos when the Union don't win. So hopefully the Union get a win so Union fans can simmer down a little bit. Then they have DC United the following week, who have also been struggling. So the Union have a chance to get 6 points in their next 2 games, which I feel like kind of a must at this point.
Yeah, it's so hard, right? Because we don't want to talk about must-win territory 6 games in, but when you've lost 6 games straight, it sort of feels like must-win territory in a lot of ways. And if it was a different opponent, if you were heading to Nashville, or if you were heading, I don't know, Western Coast, it would be different. Montreal have been bad. There's no denying that. Like, they have been bad. They have, I mean, even the games where they've done better, they've still given up a lead 3 times to lose 4-3. They are so vulnerable. And I know Bradley used the word fragile, right, to describe Philadelphia Union. We're a little fragile right now. This is a game to like end all that fragility, but you've got to be brave and you've got to believe in yourselves. And I know that it's hard when you go away and it's, you know, a difficult stadium to go play perhaps, but you got to be brave and like take a bit of a risk, because I think I want to say a bit of a gamble, you know. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for you guys, because I really liked this Philadelphia Union side last year. And it's like, I know you lost so many key players, but is it that different? You know, like a lot of key players, but come on. Oh, well.
Same system. It's the same system that's tried and true by a lot of people from Europe and being obviously worked well last year. And that's the thing, right? Like, it's Todd and I have this not argument, but we try to be very level-headed about it. Like, they got younger, they got cheaper. That's what every team tries to do. It's a fact. You know, I know it's not popular, but they had to do it. They wanted to do it. We bring up Jakob Glesnes going and getting a deal till he's 30. What is it, Todd? 34? 30, what, however old he.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
34, 35, yeah, something like that.
Oh, he's 35 with the LA Galaxy. That's insane for a center back, right? So, you know, I get it. Not everybody appreciates the mechanics, maybe the way that we do in terms of, you know, how this team operates.
But it's a business, you know, at the end of the day. I hate saying that, because like my biggest fear is to come across like this Euro snob. I have an English accent. I grew up in England, but like, it's a business. People have to make money, and it sucks. And the amount of times I saw my favorite players, you know, I would have players that I worshipped, and then they would get sold and it stinks, and then the team suffers. But if a player is only got a little bit of time left on their contract, and it's the choice between letting them go on a free or letting them go for a crap ton of money, then we know which one anyone would pick if they're in the shoes. So it's tough. It's tough. But this weekend, I'm bringing you hope. I think I have a good feeling.
2:30 this Saturday from Stade Saputo in Montreal. Can the Philadelphia Union get the first win of the season? We'll see. Jess seems to be hopeful. Are the Union fans? Probably not.
Careful. I'm neutral. I'm
I'm
neutral. I got a lot of Montreal to come.
You do. So she'll go and do a Montreal show after this, and then speak highly of Montreal, and
I don't
that
speak
no way
French,
she covers her
so.
bases. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, Jess, having you on here for.
Thank you so much.
Well past what I said, and the listeners sure seem to enjoy this with the comments. And I'm sorry, people in the comment section, we couldn't pull up every single comment. Just wanted to get the show rolling, but we saw the comments. We appreciate you guys. And Jess, for people who maybe not follow you on social media, where can people follow you?
Yeah, it's going to be at Jess Talks Footy, but it's footy spelled Footie. So Jess Talks Footy. And yeah, I'm really grateful. I love coming on. And as someone that has my roots very much in local media and fan media, Atlanta United Fan TV is where I got my start. After games, I would do a little talk with Jess. So I know the work you guys put in is, absolutely incredible. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Jose, anything you want to plug before we end the show?
You saying the time that the Union play hit me that I actually don't even have that assignment. I have the 8:30 games, which is great because it's not very often. And MLS is very kind to allow me to cover the Union, and et cetera. And I think they take advantage of it too, right? Like I'm typically at the stadium, I can get quotes, et cetera, for stories, but not having a Union game to write about is actually a pretty pleasant thing on a Saturday evening. I can genuinely.
Which game do you have?
I have Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, St. Louis, and SKC San Jose. So it's a fun slate. It's just that I can actually sit back and watch the Union and not have to actually take notes or anything. I can literally just watch
in Spanish. The way to do it.
I will have you in my ear for this game, Jessica.
It's okay. You're allowed a little Spanish. It's Jesus. Jesus is wonderful. So yeah. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you and good luck.
Thank you. And if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod. Wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. Check out the YouTube channel live every single podcast, youtube.com/Free Kick Pod. And you can go ahead and check out my writing on thefreekick.substack.com, where the podcast is also found, and the goals breakdown videos. But we'll see you guys on Sunday. Hopefully, we have some positive news to talk about. Until then, my name is Todd, and this is The Free Kick.